E.T. here. Prize fighting, as you know, has a long history. It dates back to ancient Mesopotamia, maybe before then. And with any competition, wagers were made, resulting in temptation to, alter the results. Fixed fights have been hinted at since modern boxing was introduced to England 3 centuries ago. Books have been written about mob control in New York and Chicago and elsewhere in the United States during most of the 20th century, in particular during the 1930s through the mid-60s. But very seldom do we get an actual first-hand account of how those fixes went down. But E.T. has one for you here, and it's courtesy of an author, John Jarrett, in his book, Toy Bulldog, The Fighting Life and Times of Mickey Walker. I hope you buy it, and buy it new. America's first Mr. Big, decades before Frankie Carbo, was, wait a minute, here's the story. The year is 1925. The proposed fight is between Bermondsey Billy Wells versus welterweight champion Mickey Walker. The location will be an open-air arena. It's in East Chicago, Indiana, and that's right across the state line from Chicago, Illinois. Now, Bermondsey Billy is not to be confused with Bombardier Billy Wells. E.T.'s going to have a video on him. Mickey Walker is coming off a loss, one of his very few. It's against Harry Greb, and it was for the middleweight title. The 14th round of that fight was called the greatest of all time. At least so said Grantland Rice. And now Mickey has dropped weight back to welter. I should add here, Mickey, a decade later, is going to do very well fighting against light heavyweights and heavyweights, including former and later champions Max Schmeling and Maxie Rosenblum. So, a non-title 10-round bout was set up by Walker's manager, who happens to be Jack Doc Kearns, Jack Dempsey's former manager. And the fight is going to be against Bermondsey Billy Wells, set up for August 7, 1925. Now, Billy Wells is described by his manager as, and I'm quoting him, a combination of Mike Gibbons and young Griffo. Now, 5 years earlier, Wells is in England, and after being denied a shot at Ted Kid Lewis's British title, in 1922, he emigrates to the United States, and he runs up a mostly winning record, and it's good enough to get a shot at Mickey Walker, albeit not for his title. As already mentioned, the fight's to take place in East Chicago, Indiana, abutting Chicago, Illinois. And both Chicagos, during the roaring 1920s, are hosting active vice districts, and they're headed up by Al Capone. Now, E.T.'s uploaded a video regarding Capone's attempt to entice Jack Dempsey into a formal business relationship, which, by the way, Jack politely refused. But Billy Wells, good though he was, lacks Dempsey's gravitas. Days before the fight, it's now booked for a later date, August 10 of 25. Billy, who later writes about this, is relaxing in his locker room following a workout when, to quote Billy, 3 mean-looking men walk in. And one says, "The big fella wants to talk to you, Billy." Then they drove Wells in Al's dark Cadillac across the state line to Capone's apartment building, where Al is waiting. Wells describes Capone this way: a short, roly-poly guy with hard eyes and a smile that could chill a man sunbathing on the equator. Billy emphasized to Capone, he's a sure bet to beat Walker, and Capone should put money on him, Billy, to win. But Capone shook his head very slowly. "I got other plans, Billy. Walker's got to win." Well, an upset Billy then exclaimed that, "Well, Al, that's not right." And Capone replied, "Be wise, Billy. There's too much dough for you to beat Walker. And the wise guys think you are a good bet, and I'll get you another shot, but this time you lose. Now good luck, kid. Al's boys drive a silent Billy Wells back to his hotel, where he immediately packs. He checks out of the hotel. He catches a fast train to New York City. Back in Chicago the next day, the papers were full of this story. One headline ran, "Wells runs out of the match with Mickey Walker." And the article quoted the promoter as saying, quote, "It was a plain case of a run out." Wells' manager was quoted too. He said Billy was in perfect condition. He had no reason for running out on the fight. Rather than find a substitute for Wells, the promoter canceled the fight, returned the money to ticket holders. As for Billy Wells, he continued boxing until 1932 against very credible opposition, but his success was less than he enjoyed prior to leaving Chicago, and most of those fights were on the West Coast or in Canada, but definitely not in Chicago, not either Chicago. And that, boys and girls, is the story. Did you like it? Give it a thumb up. Comment below. Share the video on social media, and do subscribe to this channel. You know the drill. Thank you.